Good evening and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. I am Illeagle86, one of your three hosts, as always and as ever, joined by my good friend Techtic. Techtic, what's the scoop? What's the sizzle?
I'm going to have to say vanilla and chocolate.
Okay, fair. Well, I guess we'll circle back to that. And Nerdbomber, what's the happy haps?
I was actually preparing an ice cream response, and I have no answer to that. I'm so caught off guard.
Okay, well, what's the scoop and what's the sizzle?
This time of year, you're looking at like a nice mint chocolate chip kind of thing. Like, you know, the Andes kind, but with peppermint flakes in it, like the red peppermint bark instead.
Oh, like candy cane.
Yeah, that's your go-to this time of year.
Oh, so you're like saying ice cream flavors because he asked you what the scoop was. Oh, that's so funny. How'd you think of that one?
Let's pull the car over for a second, and I want to just be sure of something. Nerdbomber, as has been noted on this podcast, you are a fan of candy corn.
Yes, I am. I made a mistake with that.
Well, okay, so it's a different topic, but how could you possibly... Well, you made a mistake by liking it. I assume that's what you're about to say.
No, I mean, candy corn is great, but around Halloween time, I was like, candy corn will not be on store shelves anymore. I need to stock up. I'm going to be in fall mode until Thanksgiving. But then we kind of like did a 180 on our Christmas implementation plan and implemented Christmas in our house very early into November. And the candy corn is now just out of season for the house and sitting in our cabinet. Wah, wah.
Your Christmas implementation plan. You guys sound very joyous around the holidays. I picture Thanksgiving dinner gets wrapped up and then Techtic grabs a big blueprint style kind of scroll thing and clears the table off and unrolls it, and on it is the Christmas implementation plan.
It's very reminiscent of like Home Alone, how Kevin McAllister has his whole plan, and then we just, set up the house, rig it to make sure any burglars can't get in. Good stuff.
So, we'll circle back to your anti-burglary, I guess, measures, but what weird Christmas candy do you like is where I was going, because I want to see if this is a multi-holiday trend of yours. I'm trying to think of like what the weirdest.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you the Christmas candy that I introduced to her, and it's been a family tradition of mine, aging back to the Depression.
So I can't make fun of it?
No, you can't, because it's a good one. So my grandparents, they received oranges, fruit, because they were a sweet treat around the holidays. So over the years, that had evolved into getting a chocolate orange in your holiday stocking. So that is my favorite holiday treat, and I'm willing to bet that it's Nerdbomber's as well.
No, sorry, it's not.
Bet failed. Pay up, loser.
It is, though. It's the chocolate realm, and I don't know if this is like a widespread thing or if this is a very like Polish sort of deal, but advent calendars. With the chocolate, like the specific, it's like they're imported from Germany. I don't even know the brand because the brand is German. If you look on the back, it's imported from Germany. So maybe it's not Polish, maybe it's German. But
so are we talking like Ferrero Rocher calendar?
No, it's like this cheap $1.99 calendar thing, and you rip open the paper door, and inside in this like plastic tray, there's little molded chocolates that you have to like pop out, and each day is a different shape. And they're like, it's not the best chocolate in the world, but you count down to Christmas. You do it every day.
I hate this tradition.
Why? Why would you hate this?
Because it's putting me on a schedule on when I have to eat chocolate, and then it's just stressing me out.
I mean, you can eat chocolate outside of the calendar, but
I'm going to be ahead of days.
You have to eat chocolate at least once a day. How do you guys handle it? Do you guys alternate who gets the chocolate on a given day?
No, we have two
calendars. What's wrong with you?
You have two calendars.
They're like $1.50. I think we can swing $3 to make sure we each have our own calendar.
No judgment over there. But I've been meaning to get into the advent calendar game, which is a weird sentence. But like I had one. Well, my parents had one, and like it wasn't candy or anything. I've seen
the
these
wood
advent
ones?
Calendars. Well, yeah, we had a wooden one that was like no candy. It was just like we custom made it for my grandparents when we were younger, like when we were kids. It was like a craft project we did. And I have a somewhat large family on one side, and we managed, there were 25 people. So we made December 1st through December 25th, and it went up in age. It was a very cool project. So it could never top that. But I saw one that you open up the little door every day, and it's little bottles of scotch. But that's like Zuckerberg money. So I'll probably go for like the some chocolate thing.
Yeah, it's also one that's difficult to enjoy with the kids, I guess.
True. Well, I don't have any kids, but yeah, I guess for longevity's sake, maybe get an advent calendar that can like be reused every year. I don't know. I'm looking to get into that game. Chocolate oranges, my fiance is very into. So I can't, unfortunately, that's disappointingly hard to judge that choice on your part. So good job. You guys ran the gauntlet of my judgment. So good on you. We're not going to talk about advent calendars or just, I don't know, candy corn today. The Game Awards happened. This is a big deal for all podcasts like ours. But look, no podcast is going to cover it as good as we do. That's a bold claim, but we're three bold people. We're going to cover it so hard. You have no idea. We're going to take you through all the winners. We're going to take you through a lot of the trailers that we saw at the event. And just kind of go into the happy haps. Happy haps is my happening phrase today. The research department here at Online Warriors has made me aware that in last week's episode, I used, what was the phrase I used? Patently ridiculous. I said it many times.
Did you really?
You did.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess when I say it, the Online Warriors Research Department, it sounds like Techtic edited last week's episode. Because I was informed that I said it like 3 or 4 times. So
it was, in fact, patently ridiculous.
Yeah. Sometimes I get something stuck in my head and it just comes out a number of times.
Just think of it like Sesame Street. It's fine. It's the word of the day.
Right. I'm not going to say it in that voice, but you can. The Game Awards. Look, this happened. If you're a gamer, you probably cared. So I don't know what order we should go through these in. I'm going to tell you what I was most excited to see. We're going to start with that because, look, I'm one of the hosts. Returnal winning Best Action Game. This is big. I think this game is in my immediate future. I was a little back and forth about Returnal. I guess in a way I still am. This is a game this is the one that you can't like save halfway through, right? Like you have to do the run all at once or something, which has me a little scared. But this is a strong endorsement. I was happy to see that. I don't know. I mean, what award made you guys the happiest? I guess that's a good starting point. What excited you?
Best action adventure, Metroid Dread.
I don't know. Action adventure is such a broad category, right? Like, part of me wants to say it's not an action adventure game, but if it's not that, what is it? Obviously, well earned by Metroid Dread. That was a good game. I begrudgingly admit, as angry as it made me, it was very, very well constructed.
See, I liked it simply because, one, it was my game of the year, and two, all of the game shows in general made me feel like I have really great taste because a lot of the games that I'm either currently playing or have played were the winners. So way to go, me.
So the other nominees in the Best Action Adventure Game category were Guardians of the Galaxy, Ratchet & Clank, Resident Evil Village, and Psychonauts 2.
Ooh, so Ratchet & Clank, Nerdbomber, how are you doing?
I was actually fine. You know, Ratchet & Clank didn't win anything, but a bunch of other big games like Psychonauts didn't as well. I was happy to see that Deathloop got a few different awards. I think they won Best Game Direction, and I forget what the other game they won. Or the
Best Art Direction. Best Art Direction and Best Game Direction.
Right.
It won.
But I think I was most excited for It Takes Two taking the Game of the Year award. I mean, first of all, just seeing the excitement of Joseph Fares. I mean, he always has incredible just sound bites and sound snippets, and his speech was probably the most authentic and fun of the night. But also just the fact that having such a small game, and by small I mean compared to some of the other, you know, games that were up for nomination, like I mean, it went up against Deathloop, it went up against Metroid Dread, Psychonauts, Ratchet & Clank, Resident Evil Village. Those are all very big budget games, and to see a relatively small studio come in and win something based on its merit, I mean, I know we've all played it. I thought it was one of the most innovative games in terms of gameplay that I've played in a very long time. And it was something that kind of stuck with me, especially that dastardly elephant scene stuck with me for a while. And so I was super pleased that they took home Game of the Year. I think it was well deserved. We interviewed Joseph Balderrama, who is one of the voice actors in the game. And, you know, I'm so happy for that team.
And we also learned that kids are great. If you don't have one, go ahead and go out and get one.
Right. There you go. That's a strong endorsement. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've talked a lot on this podcast, and Nerdbomber, I think you in particular have talked about, I think kind of like would you consider It Takes Two to be a AA game, or is this a full-fledged indie to you? because I see it's backed by EA. I see it as kind of in that AA realm.
Yeah.
It's not a blue chip title, but it's a sweet spot, I think. And I'm saying that too. It's to positive effect. It fits into this zone where it winning Game of the Year is so cool because a lot of people don't know what it is, probably. And now they're going to go play it. So, Joseph Fares being excited makes perfect sense. You mentioned Deathloop. This is another game that I think is in my fairly immediate future. So a lot of great endorsements here.
I swear, if you play it right after Spider-Man, I'm just gonna crack up.
Oh, are you playing Deathloop right now? Spoilers, I guess, for the...
I'll never tell.
Okay. I have a feeling you might tell at some point, but I don't own it yet, so I would be surprised if I played it after Spider-Man, but I am playing Spider-Man right now. Spoiler alert. I have finally cracked the tape on the PS5, so that's more to come on that in my What Are You Up To? Guardians of the Galaxy winning Best Narrative. Now, this game admittedly has flown under the radar for me, and story is very important to me, always has been. Have you guys played Guardians of the Galaxy? Do you guys have it?
No, haven't played it, didn't pre-order it or anything like that. This is one of those games where like when we saw the previews for it, I was a little like, oh, this could be really good or this could be really bad. I'm not really sure. And then all of the reviews started coming out and they were glowing. I mean, in terms of narrative, supposedly this game is really great. And even like the gameplay I've heard is super fun. So it's one of those things where I've been eyeing it up because it's on sale, but also I know it's the holidays. So I kind of put a game buying hiatus on myself for a little bit because you never know.
Now, did I dream? I may have dreamed this. Let me be clear. Didn't one of you play Forza earlier this year?
I did. I played not 5 though. I played the old one, Forza Horizon 4.
Okay. That may also be a thing that I do at some point. Is like I used to be very into driving games. And granted it was like Need for Speed. But like I think it'd be cool to like sit down and play a driving simulator, cuz that's what Forza is, right? It's a driving simulator.
Horizon 5, like the Horizon series of Forza, I mean, they are driving simulators, but Horizon is like the more arcadey line of Forza games.
That terminology scared me. So
by arcadey,
Horizon
I mean like
5.
You have like, you're not just going on a circuit, it's not like a NASCAR circuit. It's more like, you have street racing, and like a festival sort of deal. You're on like real roads in the world and not just on like a closed, I don't know, what do they call it in NASCAR? Like closed, is it arena, track? I don't know. I clearly don't follow cars.
Daytona 500. She doesn't follow cars.
Only Lightning McQueen. Ka-chow.
Oh gosh, that's a very strange endorsement here in 2021. So Forza Best Audio Design, which I feel like if you're a game like Forza and you're gonna win an award, Best Audio Design is a great one to win. Because your whole goal is to be authentic, right? So that, to me, that ticks a box in terms of like me potentially playing this game. Resident Evil Village, I can't pronounce this.
Demetrius?
The lady you saw in all the memes. Can we just call it what it is? The vampire lady with the white skin. Is she a vampire?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maggie Robertson played this character. She won Best Performance. Let's see. What else do we have here? I love the title of this award, first of all. Best Ongoing Game. That's very funny to me. Also, again, don't know what was nominated. Final Fantasy Roman numerals 14 wins Best Ongoing Game and Best Community Support. That actually was probably a pretty contested category. And like an important category in the current gaming age. Was Fortnite nominated for that? It seems like that those two categories scream like Fortnite better be nominated because that's kind of what they do, is just have an ongoing experience. Same with like Destiny, which, by the way, Destiny 2, I'm off the Destiny train. Witch Queen comes out February 2nd, 2022, which is a very fun date. Do you think they picked it for that date? 22/20/22 or just 22/22?
It's always a possibility. I'm sure somebody sat down and was like, this would look really cool in trailers.
Right, this is going to look cool. Let's do this. Other winners, League of Legends, Elden Ring. I can't do the Roman numerals today. Age of Empires IV. That's 4. Guilty Gear Strive. And then there's a litany of trailers here. And we can go through these. What's the biggest trailer on this list? And why is it Star Wars Eclipse?
I mean, there are a ton. Star Wars Eclipse is a huge one.
I want to touch on Star Wars Eclipse first, if we may, because there was so much going on in this trailer. One thing I noticed and I'm gonna nerd out here a little bit. A lot of Nemodians in this trailer. What's with all the Nemodians? They were in episode 1 for like 5 minutes, and then there was like 16 of them in this trailer. Yeah, that was an interesting way for them to drive home that this is going to be a pre-episode 1 High Republic being the operative term. High Republic era Star Wars.
Yeah, this is supposed to be something that ties the High Republic to like the movie series, correct?
As far as I know, which again, all the Nemodians. Maybe it's some Trade Federation stuff. I mean, there's no dialogue of any kind in the trailer. It's just a lot of spooky drum beats, a slow-moving Eclipse.
Hey, big fan of spooky drum beats, though.
Oh, it was super cool. Another thing I noticed, green versus blue lightsaber battle. Now, I don't know if this was a Jedi Academy situation. It was kind of unclear. It was on screen for a very short amount of time. But do we have potentially Jedi battles that are not Jedi versus Sith? That's something to potentially dig into because, High Republic, you immediately think Sith because prequel trilogy is all about the Sith. Sith kind of fade away in the OT, or I guess the Sith are still there, but they're not mentioned by name, basically. But I'm curious to see, and I think everyone's curious to see, what things look like before the Skywalkers and, the Sith are kind of staged in the prequel trilogy as this, well, there's always two, and it's been that way for 1 billion years. Are we pre-Sith at this point? Or are we...
It seemed like it might be pre-Sith.
It might be pre-Sith. Yeah, there might be no evil Jedi at all.
The red saber is merely just, they impart everything bad into the crystal, and that's what makes it red. So you can be a bad guy and not have a red saber. You just didn't add this special manufacturing process.
Right. Graphically beautiful. Now, this is, and like, I want to mention this too, because I watched a bunch of these trailers in the presence of my fiance, who is not the biggest gamer. She games on occasion, but she asked a question that I want to put here because I thought it was a very good question, which is like, what bearing does this have on what the game actually is? Like,
I mean, I would say most of this is probably CGI.
Exactly.
It's so early in development of this. I don't think any of this is what we'll actually see in the real game. But that being said, so this is a Quantic Dream game. And if you can set aside all of the crazy toxic workplace lawsuit shenaniganery happening over there and look at some of their previous games, the one that springs to mind for me was Detroit Become Human, which I actually really enjoyed that game. And the graphics, I mean, aside from some Uncanny Valley sort of deals, they were pretty good. And that was on a PS4. Right. I can only imagine what this is going to look like on next-gen hardware.
Right. I agree. I think this is all, like, at one point my fiance was like, is this a movie or a game? Because it was movie quality CGI. But that's not what we're going to get in the actual game, more likely.
The interesting thing with Quantic Dream, too, is that she's not wrong. Their games kind of do play a little bit more like a movie. I hesitate to call it a walking simulator because it's not, but it's like a lot of quick time events. And I know they kind of came out and said that wasn't what this was going to be, and they were going to like delve into gameplay a little bit more. But I feel like it's hard considering that that's all they kind of know at Quantic Dream. All of their games have been that kind of like very cinematic, quick time event-y sort of deal. That I feel like that's what we're going to get. It'll probably be a very cinematic looking game.
Star Wars as a franchise has this very strange quality to me in that, and this is probably the wrong take, but like, I don't know, I guess with the exception of Fallen Order, like, when was the last big successful Star Wars game that had like this sweeping scale and was a big hit with the fans? Like, it feels like it's been a long time. And like, I get that Fallen Order was well received, but that still felt kind of small scale. Like, it just, to me, this franchise feels like it's due.
You are preaching to the choir in so many ways that you do not even know.
Hey, I love Fallen Order. I thought once you got past the beginning part and you really got into the story, I thought it was that big, epic scale, and especially with this sequel on the way, I think that you're discounting it a little bit, but
you used to have, I mean, gosh, you used to have Knights of the Old Republic, and you used to have the Jedi Outcast series, Jedi Academy. It just, I don't know, it just feels like the apple's fallen far from the tree or something. I don't know what it is exactly about it, but like the battle, like I'll admit, the first Battlefront game, the new ones, not the old ones, the first new one, I thought it was cool, but it didn't excite me as a Star Wars fan. It didn't have some sort of X Factor quality that those older games used to have. And I don't know if it's just the time those came out or something, but like, I don't know, like Squadrons didn't really excite me that much. Force Unleashed, I think, had its moment in the sun, but like still, it doesn't, they don't hit. It feels like the Star Wars games don't hit, and then Battlefront 2, of course, was a disaster.
You're just
it might be me.
Oh
well, it might be the same thing too that happened. Like, I remember on the podcast when we first saw the Avengers footage, I got like really upset because I think when it's a franchise like that, I want something out of these games that I'm just never going to get. It might be that, but I don't know. My point is, I think this is a chance for Star Wars to do something big and splashy that can take us back to that Knights of the Old Republic sort of phase, notwithstanding the fact that it's going to go back to the Old Republic itself. So, I don't know. I have high hopes for this one, I guess. I don't feel particularly invested at the same time, but it would be cool to see it do well.
I want to say everything that you just said, and I'm sorry that I'm skipping ahead, but I want to say everything that you just said was Sonic Frontiers. You guys,
okay.
This was another trailer that was released, and you guys all know that I have been begging and pleading for a new Sonic Adventure Battle 2.
Oh, you're never going to get that.
With a Chow Garden remake.
It's
and
never
the last Sonic game I played, which was okay, but it was just okay, which was Sonic Forces, and it is overdue for that same goodness that was in Sonic Adventure 2. I even downloaded it on Steam just to relive it, and guess what? I wasn't just young and naive. That game slaps.
Sonic Frontiers is going to be interesting to me because I've always been, and I don't remember Sonic Adventure Battle. I always was one of the people, I played the 2D Sonics. I never played any of them, so 1 or 2 doesn't matter to me. I only played the 2D Sonics, and then I played Sonic Team Racing. And I gotta be honest, like, I don't know. They have to wow me with this. I'm a little concerned watching this trailer. You know, they promise this open world Sonic adventure and like graphically looked fine. But I'm a little bit worried that they're going to like lean into Breath of the Wild and lose what makes Sonic so good. And in my opinion, what makes Sonic really good is kind of following a linear progression where you go through different worlds and different sections of map, and then you have mini bosses. And then you work up to the big boss. That is, for me personally, that's what I want out of a Sonic game. And if you give me this open world experience, I'm a little worried if they'll kind of jump the shark.
And whenever the Sonic franchise tries new things, they have a notorious track record for releasing hot garbage. Do you guys remember when Sonic was a werewolf?
No.
What was
I do
that?
not.
What?
I do not. That
exactly. There's a reason. And do you guys remember this game I found was kind of cool because I was like an edgy teenager at the time, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. But did you guys know that Shadow had a motorcycle and guns and shot people?
Oh yeah, I actually did. Shadow the Hedgehog. That was a game.
Yeah,
I have that.
I'm just like that
was actually a good game.
They try crazy stuff.
It was like Sonic GTA. It was actually really fun. I forgot about that.
And
no, I know, but I'm saying it was like Sonic Universe Grand Theft Auto. It was fun.
And just sticking to the formula of Sonic Adventure 2. Please let this be that game. Please.
So just be clear, Techtic, you're not still an edgy teenager. You're over that. You're past that.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't sound happy to be.
He's a chamfered adult.
What is that first word you just said?
Chamfer.
Subdued.
That's wow. That's a $50 word for the podcast. I really don't even know what that means.
A chamfer is when you take like a sharp edge and you
put a 45.
Yeah, you put a 45.
You sand it flat.
The carpentry term. I see. Okay, that makes sense now with the edgy. Okay, well, we can move on from that. But yeah, so I think I agree. Like, I definitely got Breath of the Wild vibes from the trailer, if only because of the sweeping open world expanses they were trying to show. They were clearly going for that vibe. And my Sonic experience is very limited. I played Sonic Adventure 2 just like Techtic did and loved it. And much like what you were saying, Nerdbomber, Sonic Adventure 2, you know what it mostly is? Sonic is in San Francisco, and he has to run down all these hills. And you go do that. And it's linear. It's decidedly linear, but it's It's well executed. It's a very specific thing that they did very well. And in the older games did it very well as well. And I haven't played a lot of the newer Sonic games, but I would agree at face value that they really shouldn't be going outside that. Like they fall into this weird category, I think, where gaming, the hardware is advancing, graphics are advancing, and I think they're taking that as a reason or an excuse to be like, let's make ourselves into something that we are not. And that's bad. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of petered out there, but like it's weird to see them.
The point is, and it's the same as Star Wars, we're long overdue for that type of game again, and it needs to come to fruition.
Well, the thing that I think is kind of, and this is also going to carry into the next little discussion, but I understand their urge to reinvent Sonic, though. Like, if you think about who they're kind of pandering to with a new game, the Sonic movies came out, and while it did hit home very well for millennials, it's also reintroducing Sonic to another generation of people who love the character. And who loved Breath of the Wild? The same people who got introduced to the Switch for the first time. I mean, also people our age, but for a lot of younger people, Breath of the Wild was one of the first introductions into the Zelda realm, and they loved it. So I can understand the urge to want to kind of reinvent Sonic and introduce it to people who maybe didn't go back, which I don't know how you could have potentially avoided Sonic, even if you're a young kid. I feel like Sonic, even the 2D, has been re-released for every generation ever. But I understand the urge.
Right. Should we talk about the movie now? Because we got
probably
movie
should.
Trailer. So, I mean, look, they went to. I didn't see the first one. I still haven't seen the first one.
You need to watch it. It's on Hulu, I think. It was on Hulu for the longest time.
They approached Jim Carrey with a pound of cocaine. Nay, 2 pounds of cocaine. And we're like, we need you to do all this cocaine, and then we're going to film you. Like, it's just...
Are you talking about when he showed up at the Game Awards, or are you talking about during the trailer? Because... During
the trailer.
Because the statement can be said for both.
I don't know. The audience of this movie is not me. I can't be clear enough about that. But, like, I don't... He runs the risk of ruining the movie.
See, but just like in the first one, you're not there for Jim Carrey. You're there for Sonic. You're there for Knuckles. You're there for Tails. Even in the first one, Jim Carrey wasn't really, like, he was the main villain, but he also didn't take up a lot of screen time. So it was this nice balance that was honestly, I thought it was done pretty well. And if they sticking to the formula, Sonic folks, if they stick to that formula, this will be another great movie.
If you want zany from him, you're going to get it. And that's probably what they want. So.
I do think, and I think even if you go back to the podcast, when we talked about the first movie, I wasn't sold on Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, Dr. Eggman, whatever you want to call him. I think even in the games, like Dr. Robotnik is definitely like a zany, crazy, mad scientist guy. But Jim Carrey brings his Jim Carrey-isms to it, and I don't know. It's a little bit over the top, so I am a little bit worried about that.
Should have been Danny DeVito, but...
I don't know about that either. But
Boy, I think you're right about that. Wow. Wow. Did you say that the last time we talked about the first movie? Because I think that's a dead-on take.
I don't know.
I think you've done it again. Sorry, go ahead, Nerdbomber.
But I mean, I think overall... the rest of what we saw in this trailer is everything that I wanted, and I'm so pumped about it. I think how they introduced Knuckles was phenomenal. I think Knuckles being that gruff adversary to Sonic and Tails and advertising him that way in this trailer was great. I think Tails' introduction and getting the voice actor for Tails and introducing him in that like innocent, fun way. Tails was always my favorite Sonic character. Call me whatever you want, because Tails is not like the favorite. He's not badass in any capacity. But especially when I was little, like I was always player 2, and in Sonic 2, you played as Tails. But I love like introducing Tails, especially in Sonic 2, because going back to the Genesis games, it was all about Sonic and Tails working together. I just think this looks great. I'm so excited for it. I mean, maybe this is just me. Like, I really enjoyed the first movie. I love all Sonic everything, so I'm just super pumped about it. But I feel like the character design for everybody outside of Dr. Robotnik is great, and I'm here for it.
Oh, there's no doubt watching the trailer that they are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, which is playing to their strengths. Like you said, it looks very similar to the first movie, and that's a positive, I think. I mean, you know, lest we forget, this movie, maybe one of the first times we talked about this movie was when it got taken back to formula, because the first footage came out, or the first image came out, and people were like, Sonic looks terrible. And they went back and fixed it, and everyone was thinking this movie's going to be a disaster. And now here we are. The first one was super successful, and the second one looks to be well positioned to be very good. There's no denying.
And they introduced the Master Emerald.
Oh, yeah.
They did introduce the Master Emerald. That was a big deal. That took me back to my Sonic Adventure 2 days. Sonic Adventure 2 is the only Sonic game I've ever played.
Do you think they're going to break the Master Emerald and they're going to have to find emerald shards?
Is that what happens in Sonic Adventure 2?
Yeah, that's why all the hunting with Knuckles, you're finding the emerald shards. So you can counter the Chaos Emeralds, which if you bring in the Chaos Emeralds, then you're bringing in my boy Shadow.
I mean, that might be how they like
gets real.
That might be how they like introduce Knuckles as like a teammate rather than an adversary.
I get the sense, Techtic, that you've played Sonic Adventure 2 much more recently than me. And
like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's virtually a guarantee. This is going to be good. Who voices Tails? Do we know? Knuckles is Idris Elba. April 8th, 2022 is when this comes out. And also, Tails is played by Colleen O'Shaughnessy, and I have no idea who that is.
She plays Tails in like the games and previous Sonic things.
Well, how about that? Good for her. Again, I said that before, but it's even more true now. We're going to take a short break now before coming back to talk more about the Game Awards and in particular some of the trailers that came out. But before we take our break, I would be remiss. It would be patently ridiculous to not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Steven Keller. Steven has been supporting the show for some time now. He's been on the show a few times. That is one of the benefits of being a producer on the show. Steven supports us at the night level, which is the highest of our 3 Patreon levels of support. As a result, he gets this shout out. He gets input into our weekly game segment. He gets the occasional guest spot, and he gets access to the monthly secret segment and the vlog. You can also support us at the page level. No, I skipped one. The Squire level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And there's also a page level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. And for more of the details on any and all of those levels of support, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Thanks again to Steven, and we will be right back after this short break to talk more about the Game Awards.
In the not-too-distant future, following the rapid succession of World Wars III and IV, plus the hidden horrors of secret World War II, there's not much left. All that remains is a place where folks get together to read and discuss comic books. Sometimes they laugh, sometimes they argue, but they always record and upload their transmissions. You've found one of those transmissions today. Welcome to The Last Comic Shop. Rate, review, and subscribe to our weekly comic book reviews on all the major podcasting platforms at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
more Game Awards trailers coming at you. Nerdbomber wrote in our show notes Wonder Woman 2.
Oh, sorry, I meant Wonder Woman 1.
She skipped Wonder Woman 1. She's already thinking ahead to Wonder Woman 2, which honestly will probably happen. I mean, look, this trailer was a big deal, not really visually, but just the idea. Like, the trailer is one of those things where it's like, all right, they don't have any footage ready yet. This is just like the character model, basically. And it looked good. You hope for, what do you hope for? You hope for a Spider-Man-like experience, right? That's what we're all thinking.
So what I'm really interested in is that this is made by Monolith Games, who was the studio behind Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And one of the things that's really interesting about that, just beyond the fact that those games were very good, was that those were the games that used the Nemesis system, which they went and patented. And so we haven't seen the Nemesis system being used in any other game yet so far. And what that is basically, you know, your Nemesis is in the game, or Nemesi, or whatever the plural of Nemesis is, would actually, based on the AI and the algorithm, would actually learn and kind of adapt and make alliances or decisions or grow stronger based on the other things that you did in the game. And other, you know, nemesis that you would take down would potentially create a power vacuum for other ones to come in. And so that was kind of the whole gist of that system. And I think this would be really interesting. So from what little was revealed about this Wonder Woman game is that you're basically going to be the bridge between Themyscira. Is that how I'm pronouncing that right? I am, right?
I think it's Themyscira, but I don't know. Themyscira, you're fine. You're doing great.
And basically the humans of the rest of Earth. And so I'm really interested. I mean, Shadow of Mordor, I never played Shadow of War, but it was a phenomenal game. And I'm really interested to see what they'll do, if they'll like take this Nemesis system and how they'll apply it to Wonder Woman, because I think that would be really interesting. You know, you have a bunch of different Wonder Woman villains and potentially maybe they're all let loose on the world all at once, and seeing then how your decisions in the game will affect which villains end up rising to power the most. I think that could be a really cool thing. And I think it would help solve a little bit of the problem with all of these superheroes, and that, you know, especially when you're getting into like the godlike superheroes, like your Wonder Woman and your Superman and all of those superheroes who are kind of more powerful than your standard human, even more so than like a Spider-Man. I think that would be a really interesting and compelling way to bring those superheroes to a reasonable playing field in a video game where you don't feel overpowered. That was kind of my little rant. Sorry.
I've been meaning to play Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, honestly. I almost bought Shadow of Mordor like 2 months ago because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And I remember hearing about the Nemesis system and also hearing that game was great. I think Shadow of War might have won Game of the Year. I don't know if Shadow of Mordor did. But
Shadow of War, definitely. I think it was more heavily acclaimed than even Shadow of Mordor was.
Yeah. So this is definitely, you know, huge news. I have to think this is going to be very good. I don't know how much more there is to say. Techtic, anything to add before we move on? I mean, I think this is just a slam dunk waiting to happen.
Yeah, that's basically my 2 cents. It just looks great. It's going to be awesome. And I didn't even think about the Nemesis system, Nerdbomber. If they do that, that would just absolutely blow my mind because it would give everyone a unique playthrough. And
also, I'm just going to stump for female superhero representation in video games because I think this might be the first one, ?
Stump away. I honestly don't know.
I mean, outside of like Marvel's Avengers where it was
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but like I'm talking about like being the title character.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, big ups to this game. It's going to be really exciting. We'll look forward to seeing more footage on it because, right, like I said, right now it's pretty minimal, but big news. A lot of people very excited, and I think rightfully so. You know, Alan Wake, I think, has been mentioned on this podcast as a game that I probably should have played. Like, it seems like a game that I would love that I just missed, just flat out missed. And Alan Wake 2, we got a trailer for this in which look, let's call it what he is. He looks like John Wick. I know that's not who Alan Wake is, but like, I looked at the character, I was like, it's John Wick. This is going to be good. If they're dusting this bad boy off, it's probably for good reason. I bet the story for this game is fantastic.
The interesting thing to me was that, you know, they had talked about how since Alan Wake, you know, they kind of shelved the franchise a little bit. And now that they've had a few more games under their belts and that Control is successful, they're approaching this and kind of approaching it differently than Alan Wake, because the first Alan Wake game had like scary, spooky elements, but for the most part was kind of like more of a detective-y sort of game. And this, they said it's going to be like straight up horror. This is survival horror, which almost immediately makes this a game that I don't want to play, but...
And it makes a game, again, it's like Dead Space-ish, right? It's a game that I should want to play.
Mm-hmm.
So...
I have to ask you guys, though. And this was something that all over the internet, be it Twitter or Reddit, I saw different takes. I know, obviously, the mocap actor is none of these people. But who did you see when you initially saw the
John Wick?
You thought the facial actor was John Wick?
I saw Jakey.
I heard Jakey. I did. My fiance again was in the room when I watched this, and she said it looks like Jake Gyllenhaal.
I thought
she also said
Bradley Cooper.
The other. Yep, she said Bradley Cooper.
It looked like a Bradley Cooper, Jake Gyllenhaal mashup, and I was like, oh. And then I found out it was neither of them, and I was very confused.
I mean, it's a good thing to be a Jake Gyllenhaal, Bradley Cooper mashup. I guess not lately. You don't want to be Jake Gyllenhaal associated, but like looking like him and looking like a cross between him and Bradley Cooper, it's pretty good. Nothing scary about that, Alan Wake. Yeah, I don't know if we got a release date for that. We haven't been mentioning release dates for any of these. I think for the most part because none of them have release dates. They're just like, hey, this is coming. I don't know. Look it up. I could look it up, but you're probably just already looking it up anyways for listening to this. So go look it up. I'm going to turn it over to Nerdbomber for Nightingale. This is one that I missed the trailer for. It's ex-BioWare people involved in... I'm going to read the synopsis here I'm getting from Polygon. Shared world survival and crafting game set in a magical Victorian gas lamp fantasy world. Victorian gas lamp fantasy. What? I don't...
Yeah, so this almost looked like you were going through kind of like a steampunk fairy book world sort of thing. And it gave me really that fun RPG vibe that BioWare is very known for. You know, watching this trailer, BioWare was one of the first things that came to mind before I even realized like who had worked on this game. And essentially, the one thing that I will say is a little bit different than like your Mass Effects or Dragon Age is that you have the option to work with other people. I think during, it was either the trailer or talking to the dev afterward in one of the clips, they made sure to say that you could play this solo, but it's basically going to be like you can squad up with your friends and go through this kind of like RPG, very fantastical experience. And I don't know about you, Techtic. I was just really feeling the vibe and the genre and setting, like the fantastical world. I feel like we haven't gotten a lot of that genre lately. And I know we have a bunch of things on the horizon.
Yeah, I was going to say 2022 is going to be a fantastical year.
Yeah, but like I was just really vibing with this, like completely new IP. I've been feeling new IPs lately, so I'm very stoked for this game.
My exact reaction was, steampunk.
Nightingale will cast players as a realm walker. Realm walker, incidentally, was my nickname in high school. They called me Realm Walker when I was strolling through the halls. Oh, there goes Realm Walker. Survivors of a magical cataclysm. That's what Realm Walkers are. So, yeah, again, more to come on that. Looked very cool. And yeah, I figured Nerdbomber. I mean, this is from the Mass Effect folks. So that alone is probably makes it worth the cost of admission for you. Finally, I mean, there's a lot more here that we don't have time to get to, but I did mention being a Lord of the Rings fan. We need to talk about Gollum.
I thought you were going to say Tiny Tina.
Gollum, what's going on here?
He looks too cute. There, I said it. Gollum's supposed to be ugly and cutified him. My
fiance was like, "Oh, he's cute." You're right, and you're right. That's incorrect. I like the idea. The main takeaway I had with this trailer was, okay, this is going to be a trap setting game. He dumps the boiling pit on these orcs, right? I hope it's like you're going around setting traps and defending where you think the ring is. Because we don't know what this game is.
I thought it was a trailer for Home Alone, the video game.
But right.
I was like,
we don't
is that
know.
Macaulay Culkin?
I think the first footage we got, because I think we got footage before this, and it made you think it was going to be, okay, Gollum is going to experience the events of the Lord of the Rings, and you're going to beat Gollum while that's happening, which There might be some merit to that, but like it's a weird. I think this idea might be more fun, which is okay. It's pre-Lord of the Rings, but post-Hobbit. You're Gollum in the Misty Mountains. You've lost your ring. It's down there somewhere, and you have to keep orcs from getting it. I think that's way cooler. I hope that's what this is. But yeah, he's too cute. I think that's also worth mentioning.
Can someone out there please, a Photoshop aficionado, please Photoshop Gollum to have that like Macaulay Culkin shocked face? That'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
At OW Techtic. That's where you send that. We also have at Online Warriors 1, our main show account, at OW Nerdbomber, and at OW Illeagle 86. Photoshop aficionados, come hit us up. Also hit us up and yell at us about any games we did not cover, any trailers we did not cover.
I'm going to put Techtic on the spot here. Any honorable mention that you don't want to get into, but that you just want to like call out that you got announced or whatever that you're excited about?
I've said my excitement enough about this game. Tiny Tina.
He's so excited he can't even say
her Wonderlands. I just want to see them. It sounds wrong, but I want to see them.
Wow.
My honorable mention is Thirsty Suitors, which is probably not what anybody expected. It gave me very Scott Pilgrim versus the World vibes, except a lot different. There's so much going on. It was very comedic, but also skateboarding and fighting. And yeah, interested to see what that game turns out to be, but it's an Annapurna game, so I'm sure it'll be great.
And apparently the similarities are drawn to
Yakuza.
And it's not like
it's more of an RPG
game.
than a walkthrough, so I'm interested.
Which is exciting.
Thirsty Suitors is a hysterical name. I just want to make that known. For me, this is something that is already available. You can go download this today. The Matrix Unreal Engine 5 thing they teased.
The Matrix Awakens, an Unreal Engine 5 experience.
I mean, look, the movie's about to come out. The next movie's about to come out. Matrix is the most video game thing ever, and it looked really cool. Go check that out. That'll get the blood pumping. That's my honorable mention. So that takes us to the end of the Game Awards. Again, if we missed any games you desperately want us to talk about, hit us up on Twitter, yell at us, call me stupid. Do whatever you want. Twitter is a place for free expression. Right now, I am going to freely express my weekly update in What Are You Up To Wednesday. And it's the one we've all been waiting for. I have started playing my PlayStation 5. Now, yeah, I was very taken in. I'll tell you what the most important thing. What was the most wowed thing? Like, what was the thing you were most wowed by when you first turned the console on?
Like, does
the motor's revving up?
The controller.
Okay, I wasn't
sure. The controller is the correct answer.
You said the first thing when it booted up, and I was like, well, technically, I didn't do anything with the controller right when it first started. Like, are you talking the splash screen? I'm confused.
Well, I don't remember if it happened in the Astrobot thing.
Did you play Astrobot?
I did play some of Astrobot. I played, full disclosure, I played Astrobot for as long as it took for Spider-Man to download, which was, I got through a good few levels of it, and it was cool. The very beginning of Astrobot is when they're like, hey, here's this new controller, like, feel these adaptive triggers, and like, feel all these little men rolling around in your controller. Like, you remember that part where they flip up the touchpad, and they dump a bunch of little Astrobots into the controller, and then if you tip the controller around, you can feel each individual Astrobot jangling around in there. It was unbelievable. The controller is ridiculous. Started playing Spider-Man. Techtic hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's what we all wanted. It's the same exact thing so far, and I am not remotely dissatisfied with it. That's my review. I'm not very far into it yet, but I'm surely going to play the entire thing, and I'm going to enjoy it. More PS5 updates to come. Because of the holiday season coming up and various things I have going on, I might not be doing too much playing over the next couple of weeks, but it is the plastic has been cracked on that, so I'll be continuing to provide intermittent updates on that. And what I play next is unknown at this point. So that's one thing I've been doing. The other thing I want to shout out: watched a movie this weekend that I think came out in the summer or maybe the early fall. Dear Evan Hansen. This is, of course, based on the Broadway musical, stars Ben Platt, who also starred in the musical and won a Tony for it. This movie got pretty slammed by critics. I think it has a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was not that bad. It wasn't particularly good, but it was fine. It was a very middle of the road. If you like musical movies, you'll probably get something out of it. You have to go into it. The music is incredible, and that's why the musical itself won so many Tonys. The music is incredible. It's by the same guys that did La La Land. The plot is, I'm going to bust out that phrase again, patently ridiculous. The plot is absurd of this movie and of the musical. Like you can't blame the movie for it, or you only can to a certain extent, because the plot of the Broadway musical is just bananas. And I think when you go to a Broadway musical, you're much more willing to check your plausibility meter at the door than you are when you sit down and watch a movie on your couch. That's I think my main assessment as to why people didn't like it is they unfairly judged it for being unrealistic, I guess is what I'll say. Ben Platt was amazing. His voice is ridiculous.
Did he successfully pass off as a kid? That was a big critique that I saw a lot of.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So physically, he does not pass for a kid. Mannerisms wise and acting wise, he kind of nails like awkward, anxious teenager. Like mostly what my reaction was watching him was like, yeah, it makes perfect sense that he won the Tony, because he did win the Tony, and I'm sure it was well deserved. I'm sure it wasn't even close. I don't know who else was up for it that year, but like, there's definitely an argument to be made that he was made for the role. He is now too old for it physically, so that, like, you know, it's hard to get around that a lot of the time. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't give it a 30%. I would give it probably somewhere in the 50s, 60s. So you could certainly do a lot worse, I guess is my review. And the music, just go listen to the soundtrack, honestly. The music is really good.
I've heard the main song. I feel like that hit Spotify. I think, didn't Sam Smith record it?
Sam Smith recorded it. That version, obviously, is that, like, I had to play that over the end credits. I honestly don't think that was necessary at all, but they did do that. Great song. Yeah, that's it on my end. Like I said, a lot of holiday stuff going on otherwise. So I will turn it over to Nerdbomber. Give me the happy haps. What's the scoop?
All right. So the first thing I want to touch on is I started playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX on the Switch. This is a game
that is a long title.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've been referring to it as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But apparently there are other versions. I've never played any of the Mystery Dungeon games before this, because it was like on the DS as well. But this actually came out last year. I bought it right away and then never played it. Maybe Techtic bought it, but it was still in foil, and I unwrapped it and played it. And it's okay. So the first thing I want to comment on is that you're a human who gets turned into a Pokemon. That's like the whole shtick of the game.
This is scary.
And so it starts the game off by doing like a personality test, right? And it has you do stupid things. Like, some of the questions are like, oh, would you rather go to like the beach or to a big city? And you pick stuff like that. And then it'll be like, oh, take your right hand and grab a single finger on your left hand. Which finger did you grab? And just like stupid, not super in-depth stuff. And then at the end of this personality test, to tell you which Pokemon you are, it nails it. It literally, it doesn't, I mean, maybe not the Pokemon necessarily. I was a Bulbasaur, but it even like reads you back like traits about yourself that it gleaned from this personality quiz. And it is scarily accurate, like ridiculously so, to the point where I immediately called Techtic over and I was like, you have to do this. And it was also spot on for him as well. And he is a Squirtle, for anyone wondering.
It was, for her, it was like you have crippling anxiety. You're a Bulbasaur.
It wasn't that spot on, but it was like, it was pretty close.
I don't like that.
I
don't need my game psychoanalyzing me. That's scary. I agree with Techtic. I think that's what you said before. Techtic is scary.
But like after that, the game itself is fun. It doesn't play like a regular Pokemon game. Essentially, you team up then with another Pokemon, and you go through dungeons as a dungeon crawler to save other Pokemon. And then you eventually like build up a team with different traits and attacks and stuff. And it's more based on like a grid system, and you're a Pokemon. There's no trainers. You're not trying to catch them all. And there's like settlement management and that kind of stuff. So it's very different from a standard Pokemon game, but I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. So personality test freaking me out aside, I'm a Bulbasaur. now everybody knows. I would definitely recommend it. It's not going to be what you're expecting out of the franchise, but it's fun nonetheless.
What am I?
We would have to go through.
I don't want you to. I want you to just tell me.
I would.
What am I?
We don't know what the other personalities of the other Pokemon artists
are.
Yeah,
that's the tough part because I don't know what they've assigned to the other Pokemon.
Fine, just based on your own intuition, what am I?
A lot of mine was based on being anxiety riddled. The Techtic was not lying, so I'm assuming you'd also be a Bulbasaur.
Yeah, all right. That's not the answer I wanted, but it's probably the right one.
You're a guy. You're a Squirtle.
You like to play pranks. You're a Squirtle. I was like, yes. Wow.
Boy, they got you dead to rights there. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then anything else to? Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing is that I have been plowing through books, read the latest Murderbot book, and definitely recommend it. I don't want to go too in depth because I feel like I've talked ad nauseum about how the Murderbot series of books by Martha Wells is just freaking phenomenal. But it is phenomenal, and you should go read them all. The one that I just read was Fugitive Telemetry, which was number 6. I've read all of them this year, all of the Murderbots. Definitely, it's so good. I don't even want to tell you anything about them. They're just so good. You need to just go read them.
All right. Well, that's it for today's show. I have some reading I got to go do. So see you guys later. Techtic, give us the straight dope.
So, I did start playing Deathloop. That is a fact. And
did you finish Spider-Man?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're. I'll tell you, your pace is heroic these days. Keep going.
Well, I do what I can. It's the winter.
Yeah. Good for you.
So I started Deathloop. It is pretty fantastic so far. It's a little bit got me on edge because I don't want to die at all, even though I'll just loop. It's a principle thing. I'm not dying, so I play through it very cautiously and carefully, which I guess is the goal. So that's a good time. But it's a lot of...
I was about to say that's probably not how you're supposed to do it. I don't know. I haven't played it, but presumably looping helps you. I don't know why I'm attacking you right now. There's just no need for that.
I prefer to do things clean, like a secret agent man. But that's just
me. That's how I play Dishonored, so I respect it.
So that's going great. I'm enjoying it. I do recommend it. Still going to say that Metroid is my game of the year, but I digress. The other thing is we started puzzling. I highly recommend just picking a surface in your house and putting puzzle pieces down. Start with a frame and then just walk away from it. And day in, day out, maybe lay down a couple pieces here. It's just this passive activity that feels kind of productive, but is
you make progress on something.
Yeah, it's this nice thing that I forgot what it felt like to have a puzzle sitting around in my house, and I really like what it does. It's this good feeling. I can't quite explain it, but it's nice.
Puzzles, I believe, one of our first pandemic episodes last year. Not to cast that pall over the episode, but I want to say I strongly recommended puzzles as a pandemic activity, and I stand by that. It's just a great indoor activity.
I don't want to call it
it holds up.
Like an activity, like something you sit down and just chug through. I want to call it more of this passive thing that you walk by, you go, there's a piece, and lock it in.
Look, man, it can be whatever you want it to be.
That's true.
If you're really, sometimes it depends on the day. Sometimes I'll put in 2 pieces and I'll walk away. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, I'm going to open myself a bottle of wine and do this. It just depends on the day.
And then the last thing was, in addition to, as I said on the last episode, I'm going to try to write a book. I'm also going to try to write a short story to really diversify my portfolio. One of them is going to get finished at some point. That is my goal.
I'm not going to say what the promises are, but I'm going to tell the listeners that offline, you've made some promises mostly to yourself, but also you've made some claims.
You got to have goals. What you're if you don't give yourself deadlines, you won't be working towards anything, and it'll just be this thing that you started that you never finished.
Right in circles around Nerdbomber and I, we're longer term writers. I may put out a book before I die.
I'm going for the Animorphs type writing style where it's not about quality. It's a
hey now.
quantity.
Animorphs is quality. Shut the hell up.
Right, but that genre of books was specifically
Pulp Fiction, basically.
right. That was basically just pump as much.
Yeah,
stuff.
Magic Treehouse. Magic Treehouse is what I think of.
Yeah,
They were like, "What's a historical event?" They were like, "Oh, the Titanic sunk." It's like, "All right, give us a book. You have 3 hours." That was their whole business model. Magic Treehouse books.
Hey, I was part of the Magic Treehouse book club as a kid.
Oh, I love the Magic Treehouse. Don't get me wrong.
It was
a very neat book club. Not to digress too much, but every book, like you said, it had like a different historical setting, and they would send you a little like craft thing to do that taught you something. So like one was a mummy with like real paper mache that they sent. It was fun.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the Treehouse was magic. It was magical Treehouse. It would take you places.
Okay.
All right, let's have a quiz. It's me versus Techtic this week. Techtic, look, you already lost. At this point, we're just doing this because of precedent. So I don't know. Go out there and enjoy yourself. Try and save some face. I think that's your main goal at this point.
All right, so this week's quiz, last week we had a tie between topics, so this week is the cleanup, taking care of that other topic that tied. The topic is Tom Holland. So be prepared. Get your little spidey senses tingling. Get ready.
Did you guys watch the Tom Holland's Hot Ones? Shout out to Hot Ones, by the way. It's an absolutely amazing YouTube show. You should go watch the Tom Holland Hot Ones. I'm going to win this because I just watched it.
Well,
go ahead.
Somehow I don't think you will, but maybe. We'll see. Okay, so we're going to start out with some of Tom Holland's non-Spider-Man roles that he's had. One of his first theatrical roles was
Billy
The
Elliot.
Impossible. No, I'm sorry. I mean like movie theater. Sorry, I should be more specific. Okay. One of his first film roles was The Impossible, starring alongside Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor. How many total awards did that movie win across all award shows? And we're going to let Illeagle go first.
Yeah, I assume I'm going first. This was a good movie. I actually watched this movie last year. And he is a child in this movie. This won a lot. This is, I mean, we're talking 17. 17.
That is literally exactly what I was going to guess. I don't want to use my plus one
17.
here.
17 is my answer.
I'm going to say 20.
All right, so Techtic takes this one home. It won 28 different awards. So right now, Techtic has the lead. I have 4 more questions and a tiebreaker, so you guys are both still very much in it. Moving to the next Tom Holland film. Tom Holland was in The Lost City of Z alongside Charlie Hunnam and Robert Pattinson. The film was actually shot on 35mm film, according to IMDb's trivia section. How much extra did this production decision to record on 35mm film reportedly cost?
We're digging deep with these questions.
I'm going to say
that's an impressive question.
I'm going to say it costs an extra $2 million.
Way more. Significantly more. I'll go 10 million. I know it's even way more than that.
Okay, so kind of a trick question here, I guess. It actually did not cost that much money. You both busted. It was $750,000. And one of the reasons why it did not...
You mean 750 million?
No.
You read it wrong.
So this is where like the fun trivia-ness comes into play and you'll learn something. One of the reasons why it didn't cost as much money as they expected was because if they had recorded digitally, the humidity in their on-set location was actually ruining some of their digital equipment. So by filming on 35mm film at the time, they were able to preserve footage which otherwise may have been deleted and needed to reshoot. Fun fact.
They saved money?
No, they didn't save money, but it didn't cost that much more. Nerdbomber, I don't appreciate the trick questions here.
I didn't realize you guys were both going to bust, but hey. So Techtic is still in the lead here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about reshoots. So Tom Holland starred alongside Daisy Ridley in Chaos Walking. The movie had extensive reshoots, which actually caused Holland to miss out on a lead role in the movie 1917, as well as missing the premiere of Avengers Endgame. How much did those reshoots reportedly cost for Chaos Walking?
Well, if you missed those 2 movies, it had to be a lot because those are big movies. Boy. Put me down for 25 million.
$1.
Techtic's tactics work again. The film required
Techtic's
extensive reshoots during the month of April in 2019, reportedly at a cost of $15 million. So Illeagle, you busted. So Techtic gets that point.
We're starting a new segment on the show called Techtic's Tactics. Also, I want to be as clear as I can. It doesn't matter that I'm losing. I don't even care. I care a little bit.
Because you're learning so much right now?
Did I lose already? Is it already over?
No, we have 2 questions and a tiebreaker, so you can still come back from this.
All right, right on.
But you have to win out.
Yeah, easy.
So
okay, go ahead.
Now we're kind of pivoting. You already mentioned that Tom Holland was in Billy Elliot in the theater. How old was Tom Holland when he made his debut as Billy Elliot at the Victoria Palace Theatre in London?
All right, T-Dog.
He was 6.
No. 11.
All right, so Illeagle gets his first point here. Tom Holland was actually 12 years old when he got that role.
You hear that, Techtic?
I didn't hear you. What? I'm just kidding.
It's the sound of the comeback train. Okay, last question. I'm going to try and tie this bad boy up. Let's do this.
All right. What is Tom Holland's height in centimeters?
Are you kidding me? The metric system? How many centimeters are in a foot? Oh, gosh. Okay, hang on. I need to get my calculator out for this. I'm going to go with 232 centimeters.
I'm going to go with 170 centimeters.
Techtic, not only did you win this, but you won it in style. He is 5'8", which translates to 173 centimeters. Techtic almost got it right on the nose. Techtic's tactics came in handy.
I only knew that because I worship short kings as a short king myself.
Wait, how many centimeters are in a foot? I thought it was 40. Is it 30?
I don't know.
Yeah, you know what?
You got to convert to inches. 2.54 inches.
Yeah.
And there's 12 inches in a foot. So multiply 12 times 2.54. You're probably closer to 30, yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's where I fell down.
Did you have a really tall Tom Holland?
Well, yeah, Tom Holland was a giant because I thought there was 40 centimeters in a foot. Well, look, Techtic, you were due a victory.
You had him at 7.5 feet tall.
Look, he looks tall in the movies. I don't know what to say. My conversion factor was wrong. Give me a break.
How tall did you think that was?
I thought that was 5'9", almost exactly.
Okay, so you would
have busted anyway.
I would have busted anyways. I would have been close though. I wouldn't have been ridiculous. Okay, that drops me to 17-5. Techtic at 11-11. So kind of even Steven mode for you here. Nerdbomber at 13-11. So Techtic again. We have to figure out what your punishment's going to be. We haven't gotten to that yet. That brings us to the end of the show. Now we're going to do something a little bit different here at the end, and I'm going to tease next week's episode. Next week we're having a guest on the show, which we don't usually tease, but this one we're particularly excited about. This is Daniel Greenberg from George Mason University. Teaches game design topics in the computer game design program with a focus on history and analysis. We're going to be digging deep, talking all things the history of games. So you're going to want to be here for that. You're going to want to tell your friends, tell your wife, tell your children, tell your pets, tell anyone who will listen to show up here and hear us chat with Daniel. So we'll see you next week. In the meantime, feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to hear from you there, anywhere on Twitter, as we mentioned all our handles already. And get out there and go to a restaurant and go into the back. Find a line cook. Not the head chef. He's too busy. Find a line cook and tell them Online Warriors Podcast. We look forward to seeing them at next week's episode. See you next week.